Here's another way we could style our components. You can do it in JavaScript, which might feel a tad gross. It already feels a little weird mixing markup with behavior, but JSX embraces the idea that these things are all coupled together. It's kind of silly to artificially separate technologies when this sidebar, like that's one thing, that's a whole thing. So we have sort of a separation of concepts instead of separation of technologies. So we put everything related to the sidebar together. The behavior, the presentation, all of it. So our JavaScript, our style, our markup, all lives together in universal harmony in a single file, potentially. So we could actually apply the style directly in the JavaScript. So we're going to do that to style main to demonstrate both ways of doing it. If we look at the static CSS file that we loaded from static note herder, that was called, I think, just style.css. Let's look for main. There's our sign in. Here we go, .main. So those are the rules I want. Let's just open that up to the side there. So I'm going to style my main component using those. I'm going to make it use flexbox. I'm going to set it to 100% of the viewport height. I'm going to set align items to stretch. We've got some vendor prefixes here that we don't really need. So how do I do this with JavaScript? Well, basically what you do is you use a style prop just like you would use a style attribute in HTML. I'm going to put line breaks in the middle of the tag for the sake of readability here. So class name main, style, and then instead of giving it a string, I'm going to give it a JavaScript object with all of the CSS properties I want. And we're going to use JavaScript rules here. So we're not going to use dashes and stuff. We're going to camel case our property names. So to put something other than a string, you use a curly brace, right? So if what I want inside there is an object, I kind of need double curly braces. I'm going to do this a slightly different way here in a second, so just watch for a moment. So I could put double curly braces in here, and now I've got my style prop set to this object. And then I could do something like color red. Again, I can't leave the quotes off the red because this is JavaScript. This is a JavaScript object. This is not actually CSS. And I save my changes, and behold, everything's red. So you could do that in an object literal that's right there, or you could save it in a variable. So let's do that. I'm just going to make a variable down here. I'm going to put it after my component. Const style. And I'm just going to set that to an object with a color of red. And then up here in my JSX, I'm just going to say style equals curly brace style. And I'll just change it to our good old standby cornflower blue just to make sure that it worked. It did. It's blue now. So this works. So now I'm going to write all my styles down here. I don't really want the color to be cornflower blue. I want to do this stuff. So I'm going to say display flex. So display colon the string flex, which tells it to use flexbox for layout. Don't forget my comma. I want the height to be 100% of the viewport height. That's what 100 VH is. There's also a VW for viewport width. So it just means however high the browser window is, I want this to stretch to fill the whole thing. So height, the string 100 VH. If this were CSS, you would not use quotes. Put my comma. Then a line items stretch. This is a flexbox thing. There are a variety of values you can use for align items: flex start, flex end, center, stretch. Stretch, I believe, is the default, but we're going to put it anyway. Align items. Now I have to camel case this. This is JavaScript. Align items, the string stretch. And again, since this is a JavaScript object, I can just put a comma at the end there. I don't use semicolons. It's not CSS. It's just a JavaScript object that happens to contain CSS properties. And then just say style equals style. And now they're side by side instead of being stacked on top of one another. That's the only difference you're going to see so far. Not terribly exciting. But there it is. Now they're side by side. Which they should be, right? Sidebar, list, form, in that order. So that's something. So what do we do? Style main using CSS in JS. Why might I want to do that? So like I said, it kind of makes the component self-contained. Like everything related to this component is right there. Also, when they were in separate style sheet files, they were really, all the style sheets were actually global. They're not actually scoped to that component. We have to be careful about the way we write our rules to do that. This way, it is scoped to that component. There is no way these styles are going to leak out and affect things that are not inside main. So by doing it this way, we ensure that. Also, if you do React Native to make native apps, this is what you have to do. You have to use JavaScript objects. You can't use style sheets. Not CSS anyway. So if you do this, you might actually be able to share some style code between your React and React Native projects, which is almost enough reason right there.